Hey guys, welcome to the Arcade City Podcast. It's Brandon, Kevin. We are back yet again. I think we're just gonna talk a whole lot of Batman. And you know, it's been a little while. I mean, it's not been a little while since we last talked, but I'm just gonna start letting go, man. I feel like I've been holding back.
Oh,
So I'm
what do
just
you
I'm
mean?
just gonna I don't know. I had to listen to an editing of an older podcast because I'm trying to work the old podcast into the YouTube page, and hopefully get them up for people to hear,
Mm-hmm.
through our RSS feed. And I don't know, I feel like I've been holding back. I think I'm just going to let go sometimes now. I feel like I hold back for people's feelings or something, and I am not going to do that anymore. I'm
Oh,
just going to
well,
let it
okay.
fly.
All right.
Um,
Well, we look
so,
forward
so
to.
maybe this is a whole new, brand new ass podcast. But anyway, Batman. When you were away, you had told me you decided to, on your road trip, binge listen, I guess,
Yes. Yeah.
to Batman on Batman.
Yes, the Kevin Smith podcast. For those who do not know who Fat Man is, yeah, I downloaded a bunch of episodes and I listened to them on the 20 hours driving down to Texas and the 20 hours driving back. Although, not exclusively. I did switch over to when I Never Not Funny podcast came up. I switched over to that, and but for the most part, it was Kevin Smith. So I started at his first um, episode with Paul Dini, who
Hmm.
is the writer for the Batman animated series. He's responsible for a lot of the cartoons that DC does. And then I am currently on episode 42. So I've been going in order
Hmm.
because I'm anal that way. I can't pick up with the current one usually. And I have really been loving it. It's a really good podcast. I mean, not. I at first thought he was going to talk only about the Batman the animated series, which I have probably only seen maybe a couple of episodes. I haven't really seen a lot of that.
Hmm.
But after listening to some of the stuff, I've got a desire to go back and maybe start watching that from the beginning. It was like
And,
three seasons.
and I might as well touch on this since we just mentioned the animated series. The voice of Commissioner Gordon, Bob Hastings,
Mm-hmm.
had just recently passed away at the age of 89. Um,
Wow.
so, all Batman talk aside, Commissioner Gordon, farewell from the animated series. Bob Hastings. Um, Big part of my childhood, I'll tell you, man. I used to come home every day, and that's when the animated series was on. I believe there was one show, or I would catch it right as I walked in the door. And trust me, if my bus was late, I was either pissy or sprinting up the driveway, because I just love that animated series so much. Um,
So you have watched all of it, or are you from the beginning?
I've watched all of it through a few times. Not that I remember all of it. I remember certain things. I remember, um, if we want to. I mean, we'll talk about the podcast a little bit more and stuff. But if we get into the animated series, and I believe, I don't know if it was the first episode, but it was a Mr. Freeze episode.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was so dark, and it got into him, the love of his life, kind of being suspended in uh, ice until he could find a cure for. Um, and that episode alone was like I don't know. Even watching it now, like I can't even remember offhand a lot of the quotes that I would take away from that. But I mean, there are a few, and it was just whoever Mr. Freeze was amazing.
Yeah, they talk about that on the podcast. One of the first episodes with Paul Dini. I think that episode I think you're talking about is called Heart of Ice.
Yes.
I did not know a lot through listening to this. I've learned a lot from this podcast. But one of the things about that animated series was that they kind of took Mr. Freeze into a completely different direction. They didn't even have that particular storyline. That was made up for the cartoon, and I think they then have now put that into the comics. So a lot of the stuff that was done in the cartoon, like Harley Quinn, was introduced in the cartoon, and then they brought her into the comics. So they've done a lot of stuff like that, and moved forward, which I did not know. I just assumed, but like I didn't realize Batgirl came out of the TV series and then they put her in the comics. I thought she was part of the comics, and then they just put her into the movie, or into the TV series, the original Adam West TV series.
Okay,
but, Sorry, I meant to say that. We're gonna flip around. It's a Batman intensive episode today, folks. So buckle your utility belts.
Yeah. Now, you were listening to this on your trip, and it was a road trip. It's not like you were flying. So, were you headphoning it? Because I know with the girls sometimes. Okay, I was gonna say because with the girls sometimes it would. When I was talking to you, I was like, I don't know, man. Like language sometimes.
Sometimes,
for the little ones,
like all the time.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think the episode I was listening to, as of recent, it was. Let's see here. It was, what number did I say it was here? It's number 63. And I just kind of went through looking for a title that I wanted to listen to, and I kind of misread it because I thought it was the Dark Knight that might have been, and I was thinking Nolan's Dark Knight. So I just kind of picked it, and it's an awesome episode. Even though I completely read it wrong, but I'm sure the F-bomb and other things are dropped at least 50 times within the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, so here are I got nothing but really great things to say. Well, no, I take that back. I have two things I do not like about the episode, or the I guess the series, or whatever you want to call it. I don't have a problem with language. I don't F-bombs and all that. That's fine. But he dips into some like sexual, I just, I understand. I'm not trying to be prude. I'm not gonna not listen to it because of it. But whenever he dips into the, I don't know, just kind of more sexual images and to describe things, I don't like that. It just doesn't appeal to me. And I'm not gonna turn it off because he's saying it. That's okay. It comes out of his mouth like it's nothing, like it's saying hello or whatever.
Yeah. Every other podcast he has, it's like, I mean, I don't know if you listen to Hollywood Babylon at all, or even Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. But yeah, it's just Kevin Smith. So
yeah, I know that's
why I was taking a road trip. I don't know because it's Batman, and I couldn't remember because it's been a while. Like I maybe made it to episode 24, 26 or something like that, and then I think I was downloading them still. And then when I had my smartphone, I just kind of fell off listening to it for a while. I'll probably pick it back up. I'd probably pick it back up from the beginning just to to get into some of it. I know Mark Hamill was a guest early on, I think.
He was like he was the second. Yeah, he was the second episode. He did actually 2 and 3, and I'll admit I wasn't prepared. So on my podcasts I've been used to just someone comes in, they just start talking, and it's just talking. Like Never Not Funny is that they don't interview, they just talk. I did start listening to the Inside Kids or Indoor Kids with
the Indoor Kids. Yep.
Indoor Kids with Kamali and his wife. I don't remember her name.
Yeah.
And that was kind of conversational too, whoever they bring in. But Kevin Smith does real interviews. He goes back to the beginning of time with these people, and then usually a lot of these guests take 2 episodes, and the first episode is everything that's up to them doing something with Batman. And Mark Hamill just was going on, and I was just kind of going, God, Mark, shut up. Why don't you get to the Batman stuff? But then after looking back, I see now that's what I think, Kevin Smith wanted to do. And he's actually a really good interviewer. He, if someone hits on something and he's like, oh, explain, what do you mean? It's probably because he's stoned as hell through the the entire thing. I mean, you know, we talk about sometimes maybe hearing drinks or whatever in the background on here on our stuff. And I listen to all these headphones, right? And so, yeah, my daughters didn't hear it because the language, but I was listening to headphones. So you hear more, I think, in headphones than you do if you just have it through a speaker.
Yeah.
You could hear him every time the other person was talking. You hear the lighter as he's sparking up. I don't know if he's smoking joints or if he's hitting a bong or whatever. I know there was one episode he was talking to, I wrote his name down, Diedrich Bader, who's the voice of Batman on the Brave and the Bold cartoon. The dude was on the Drew Carey show. Yeah, you know, Ryan Stiles and Diedrich were friends. I don't know if you saw the Drew Carey show. He's funny. So I didn't even realize I didn't even know he was a voice of Batman. But,
he played the dim-witted guy on Drew Carey.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Black hair, really pronounced. Oh, even better, he was the neighbor on Office Space. You know, the hey dude always coming over and stuff.
Yeah.
So he does the voice of Batman on Brave and the Bold. And I'll talk about Brave and the Bold in a little bit, but what was funny is, like, you know, so I could hear Kevin Smith, and I don't think Kevin Smith, he didn't have any bones. He's a public pot smoker. I mean, people know this of him, and he references it every now and then. He doesn't point to it, but every now and then he'll talk about, well, I got 2 joints. Like when he was talking to Grant Morrison, who wrote Arkham Asylum and is a very huge, very prolific comic book author. He said, well, I got 2 joints ready to go. And so he just obviously gets stoned. I don't know how he manages to get through 2 or 3 hours without just, you know, falling over, because it seems like he's smoking the entire time. But when he was with Diedrich, I wondered, like, well, how many of these guests are partaking along with Kevin Smith? Because I wasn't really sure. I didn't know if they were just sitting there while he was just getting stoned. But with Diedrich, the guy would answer a question, he'd be going, so he'd say, like, well, how do you like, you know, doing the voice of Batman on Brave and Bold? He says, well, man, I really like the, I like to talk about it. He's like, you know, there's one episode I got upset because of the intensity of the episode. I mean, he could have just waited to just get his whole sentence out before he took a hit off at the bong. Yeah. And that was definitely a bong, I could tell. But I thought that was funny, because I'm just wondering, well, how many of these people are just getting stoned with him? I listened to Jim Lee yesterday. I was out working on my deck, and I did an interview with Jim Lee, who's a comic book artist. He's like he's a co-CEO of DC as well, or something like that. And Jim Lee at one point was like, man, I'm getting lightheaded. So I don't think he was getting high with him, but he was getting some secondhand smoke.
Well, on Hollywood Babylon, they have a little segment called "What Strain Is Kevin On?" So he actually talks about what he's smoking at the show. So yeah.
Well, I mean, Doug Benson on Doug Loves Movie, he does the same thing.
Yeah, so, he has a movie called Super Jaime and
and he does Getting Doug with High. That he does, and I don't know. Again, that I don't have a problem with, but
I don't have a problem with it either. I mean, these guys are obviously fully functional.
Right, functional stars.
We mentioned Seth Rogen before, and he's known. I mean, these guys probably create more high than most people do in their life. So I mean, probably, hats off if that's what you need to do. But I mean, the shows are great. Like I said, the one that I was listening to, you're gonna help me with the name.
Okay.
Is it Joe
Quesada? Quesada. Quesadilla.
He was he's like the CCO or something of Marvel now. But he started off drawing Batman. He was an artist, and he was talking about, like, they get into a heavy conversation of just like what his daily routine was, and he was saying, like, when he went to school, like, and he came out, and he kind of like every job he's kind of landed is being in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And when he landed the Batman gig, it was being in the right place at the right time. and he was talking about how he would like go in, he would do full color pages, like he would be, and this is like painting before digital and everything. He would do like 4 pages a day. He's like kids that were the guys that were coming out of school that were getting hired at these places were doing like maybe half a page a day, maybe a page a day if they could. He's like, and I was getting like 4 done automatically, like every day. And because they got into talking about what he looks for, because he's all over Marvel. He kind of brought it, I guess, back from Chapter 11 and all that.
Yeah,
and
he was
involved with the movies and everything. He's an editor-in-chief and everything. So, you know, they were just talking, and Kevin was like, well, what do you look for in someone who's putting out a book? Like, he's like, well, some guys can do a whole issue in 6 weeks, and that's their consistency. He's like, and that's fine. It's when we get a guy that he does his first book in 6 weeks, the next one in 12, the next one in 3, the next one in 5. He's like, when people are really inconsistent like that, then it's hard to work with people. But if you're consistent, like whatever your speed is, as long as you're consistent, it's a little bit easier to work with. He was talking about artists because he's an artist.
Yeah, and he's a really good artist. He did Kevin Smith did a miniseries. I think it was a miniseries, or maybe it was just a stint on Daredevil, and Joe drew it. And there's a lot of things, and maybe they even talked about this in the episode you listened to, but I guess Kevin Smith is very detailed in his dialogue, and Joe was like, "Hey, I need some room to draw a picture." Because, it was like, well, I want him to say this, this, and this, and this, and he was getting, that was one of the things that was kind of surprised me with this podcast, because I thought, all right, they're going to talk about Batman. Oh, all right, well, how much can you actually mine on the topic of the Batman? And little did I know, I'm 42 episodes, and I think there's plenty to talk about. But
and they don't stick to one. They don't stick to one specific Batman.
No, and I thought they were going to talk about the animated series the entire time, and I thought, well, this is going to get boring. But they did switch around. So they switched to they had the voice people for Batman. That was his first 4 or 5 episodes. Was Paul Dini, the writer, and then they had Mark Hamill for 2 episodes, and then they had Tara Strong, who voiced Batgirl, and she actually does a lot of voices, like Powerpuff and. I can't remember all of them, but she was really
I actually remember that episode now that you're naming it, that you're talking about it.
She was really good. And they had Kevin Conroy, who is the ultimate voice of Batman, and then Dietrich Bader. And I thought, is this all this going to be? But then they switched over to artists and writers of the comic book, and he even had the composer for some of the animated movies, which I thought, well, this is going to be boring, but it wasn't. It was really... going back to what I was talking about before, that, usually I like the conversational things. I don't really care for the interview style. But with this, I've gotten, kind of enthralled in listening to how these people came up, grew up, and got into it. Jim Lee's story is incredible. He just, this is what I'm going to do. And he, before he even had a job, would just get up in the morning and start drawing, and he would just do his own thing. And then finally, showed it to someone at Marvel and got in, and he is truly a rock star for comics. I mean, because he was at Marvel, then they went over and they did Image, and now he's over DC. So this dude hit on it.
Yeah, and that's how the one that I was just listening to was. Like, he wasn't even interested, and he was interested in comics and all the Marvel stuff because his dad had been watching something with Jim Lee, and he's talking about, or no, not Jim Lee, with Stan Lee, talking about the characters that he'd created and how he had, like, I guess some, I don't know if it was battles with addiction or something he said, but that's where Spider-Man came from or something like that. They were saying that, I think they were saying that Stan Lee, like where Spider-Man came from, he was in like a dark time or something, and that's where Spider-Man came from. And his dad was fascinated with the story, and so he started getting the comic books for his son, and then he's like, and then I fell out of it when I was older, and then I was working somewhere, and someone was like I would constantly draw and someone kind of looked over and they're like, "Oh, you're really good. You should draw comics." And he's like, "Comics are for kids." And the guy was like, "Well, if I get you something, will you at least read it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess." He's like, "Yeah, I'll read it for sure. I'll read it." He said, "Okay." So the next day he brought in the first issue of Batman, and he read it, and then he was like, "Well, I need to go get it." So he went and he went and got like the second issue and um, some other comics like on Payday and stuff, and he's like, and then I just kind of fell into it. He's like, and then like I said, he was an illustrator, so and he hand painted everything, and then he got a job painting, and then he got fired, and he was working on a portfolio for like sketch and pencil and stuff like that, and it was pretty cool. It was like the whole process of someone who wasn't even into drawing that kind of stuff, and now, like I said, he's CCO of Marvel or
Yeah.
whatever. So I mean, it's just it was like it was an amazing story just to hear. Like I said, I'm not trying to ruin the episode for you because you haven't gotten there yet.
Don't worry about it. I mean,
And I'm like jumping, into it. But I mean, it was just like an amazing story, and they were like, so they got to the point of, like, well, what was like, which Batman is your Batman? Because I think he was the person who designed, is it Azrael Batman?
Yeah, Azrael. Mm-hmm.
And
So he came in the Dark Knight Falls. Is that when he did it?
well, he was there before that happened, and then he kind of got handed to do it, I guess. Like they were like, we have this idea, run with it, see what you can do, and he was talking about like how much of a pain in the ass that suit is to draw. He's like, I would do like pieces by pieces. He's like, there's like 40, I think they said there's like 48 some armor pieces or something, like individual pieces that need to be drawn when you're drawing that suit or whatever.
On Azrael, yeah.
Yeah, and
I don't like it. I don't think it looks. Have you ever seen it? The Azrael?
no, I was actually going to look it up before we start talking, and I will probably do that now while we're talking.
Yeah, I don't know what. Well, I didn't really get into the whole that particular Dark Knight Returns, or actually, sort of Azrael may have been the first one that came in. I don't know, but he actually when Bane broke his back in the comics, Azrael took over as Batman, and then I think Batman had to come back and take him down. But that Batman suit, the Azrael Batman suit, is the one I don't like. Actually, Azrael's just his regular costume's not too bad. But at any rate,
that is a massive suit.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it now.
the
I don't know which one.
or whatever.
I'm just looking at him kind of with his hand in the air, but he's like making like a "I'll kill you" type hand gesture. But yes, I do see one with the flaming. Now, when I pull it up, there's a couple different versions of it. I'm guessing you're talking about when he was red and he had a long cape. I think that was right. Okay. So that's the one now I'm looking at. I was looking at a blue cape where the cape is more shaped like the bat symbol.
That's probably when he was Batman.
Okay.
When he was stepping in as Batman. He had a little different costume.
Okay. So they were getting into that, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool," because that's something I really didn't know. And that's the other thing from the show that I like. I like that it's very specific to one character. Because whether you're following comics or whatever else they're talking about, animated series, everything, like you're learning about that specific character.
That specific section? You mean when you say character, you mean like that specific time of Batman? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like depending on where they're talking about, like it's a certain piece of history for that character. It's not like they're jumping around. Like, sometimes we'll talk and I'll have questions about things and you'll explain it, and then we don't, and then but that's like a piece of that. Where there's a whole lot more. Where this show is like it's taking pieces from everywhere. So. I mean, when we usually talk, I'm usually asking about comic stuff more because you've read them. Where like this is like, oh yeah, and then like you said, like Harley Quinn came from the animated series, which I did know that. Or that Batgirl came from the TV show, which I didn't know when I heard that. Like you're learning things, and it's all kind of Batman history, but it's not just comics. It's comics, TV, animated series.
And it's even more than just the Batman. Like when they do it, when he was talking with Jim Lee, I was really interested in hearing Jim Lee talk about when him, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, they created Image Comics, and that was at the height of their Marvel, superiority, which is when that's why they decided, hey, we're doing so great with Marvel, let's go ahead and let's do our own thing with Image. And I remember that in comics, and I remember I was one of the guys who was like thinking, oh man, they're traitors, they're turning their backs on Marvel, and how dare they? And then they create, some of their books were good, but for the most part, I didn't think they were all that great. There were just a couple, like Spawn, that was part of Image, and then Wildcats, and I forget what the other ones were, but at any rate, that was interesting to hear. So that wasn't even Batman related, and I was like, oh, this is good to hear. He interviewed Stan Lee. And that was probably I was kind of dreading that interview because the last couple of interviews I've heard with Stan Lee have been just kind of Stan Lee kind of acting like Stan Lee as opposed to just talking,
And they were talking about him too in that episode. But yeah, how was that one with him?
With Stan Lee, it was good. It was way better than the one I heard Chris Hardwick interview Stan Lee. That one was terrible because Stan Lee was was being, like I said, he was on acting. Yeah. But this one was pretty good because he talked about I guess his relationship with Bob Kane. So just to tie that into Batman, and then just some of this just a little bit not the normal stuff. And I forgot that Kevin Smith, he and Stan Lee are kind of friends. So because he was in, Stan Lee had a cameo in Mallrats, and also him and Kevin Smith did like a documentary on comics. So they had a little bit of a history, so that was good. Whereas I think the one with Chris Hardwick when he did Nerdist, I don't think Stan Lee remembered. I think that was the second interview with Stan Lee, and I don't think he even remembered doing the first interview with Chris Hardwick. So. Well,
that's the funny thing. Like when they were talking about Stan Lee on the episode that I was listening to, Kevin Smith was like, "Stan is like always Stan," and then Joe kind of said, he's like, "No," he's like, "Well, I did cons with him." He's like, and cons are really intensive because you're going from con to con. It's like 3-4 days sometimes or whatever. He's like, and you forget that he's there so much that when it's time for downtime, like he's just sitting back relaxing or whatever. He's like, but someone would walk in the room and they'd be like, "Oh, Stan Lee, oh, hey, how you doing?" And he's like, even when I say hi to him, like I'll say hi to him and we'll be having a conversation, and there's a point in the conversation where he'll put his hand on my like on your shoulder, where he finally remembers exactly who you are. He's like, and it's not like we don't have a rapport or whatever. He's like, it's just that he meets so many people and everything constantly. He's like, and he's trying to remember where he remembers you from or whatever. But there's a point where he finally like, oh yeah, that's who you are. We're close. And he's like, and he like just falls in. He's like, but he's always on. He's always Stan. Like, yeah, he's like, for as much as I've been around him, I don't think I've ever been around him. And he was saying he was around him when he was in like, some really bad, like where he should be in a really bad mood, and people would come around and he would just be on. Like he's just Stan.
Right.
Like that's why everybody loves him, because that's how he is.
He's 91 too. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me he doesn't remember who half the people are, but yeah, you can tell that some of the Stan Lee interviews he kind of coasts through them, but this one was a little bit more genuine, and so that was good. But it, just going back to what we're talking about as far as it hits on this Fat Man and the Batman podcast hits on different areas. I mean, he did a couple episodes with Paul Dini where these were really good. Just talking about going through the process of writing the Batman cartoons, but then he did at least one episode with Paul Dini where they were kind of, I forgot what they were doing. They were breaking down either a cartoon or I think that's what they were doing, kind of walking through a cartoon and a couple of the I guess their favorites. And now I got a little bored with that one. I was thinking, okay, you're starting to bore me. And then he hit Grant Morrison. That was a good interview. And he did, like I said, Jeff Jones. He actually interviewed Dan DiDio, who's the guy that's part of the New 52. He's responsible for the New 52, because I was kind of really wanted to hear about that, because I'm not a fan of what they did with that. And the time that he interviewed him, the New 52 was actually doing fairly well. I mean, the first couple months that they did it,
I was in.
Yeah, but it's fallen now, and they're probably going to do another reboot, and I have a feeling that that's just part of his deal.
I think I thought I heard somewhere that they're reverting back to the old. They're a little bit, or I didn't really hear. Maybe I misheard, but I thought I heard that they said that they were going to kind of revert away from the New 52 and go back to the old. But yeah, I mean, when the New 52 came out, I was in for the first few months only because it was a fresh start, and like I said, I didn't have really a lot of knowledge going in, so
it's good for
it was a good start for me, and it was like a starting point for me and my girls to actually get in on the books, each issue. So I mean, it was really cool. Now we got to believe that Batfleck is going to appear at some point, probably closer to the movie or after the movie. I would imagine he's going to get him in there to talk about being Batman and Batman, all that.
That's interesting, because the one I listened to today was the Man of Steel review. So he and a buddy of his, Ralph Garman, who I think does Babylon with him.
Yes, and he's also Family Guy and a bunch of
okay. They kind of did a scene by scene review or as well as they could of Man of Steel, and they were talking about, oh man, this just brings in Justice League and blah blah blah, and he was talking about, he thought, they were talking about who would play Lex Luthor, and I think he said Bruce Willis would be a good choice, and I forgot who the guy thought.
That had to be a joke.
No, he meant it. He said, as much as I don't like Bruce Willis, because he apparently has a beef with him.
He had a really bad experience with him when he made Cop Out.
Okay, so
yeah.
So he was saying, like, as much as I think he would be a good Lex Luthor, and not just because he has a bald head, I could just see him doing it. And then I think Ralph said Daniel Day-Lewis or something. So I'm curious, like, who is it they picked to do? Who they cast to do Lex Luthor? It was someone named
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg, yeah. Totally out of left field. So I'll be curious to hear. I'm curious to hear what their reactions are, and it'll come up there because episode 46 is called Batfleck Begins. So I'm curious to. I want to hear his thoughts on what's going on with the movies, and when they does the Batman versus Superman, the Justice, the Dawn of Justice, and all this other stuff. I'm really curious to hear what he has to say about all that. I don't think he's gonna talk negative about it. He's not a negative person, but he's also in the industry.
Yeah, he's praised Affleck up and down on Hollywood Babylon.
Oh no, yeah.
You're talking Jesse Eisenberg.
Well, or just the plan of DC in general. I mean, the DC movies in general, I think they're going too fast, and I'm not sure where they're going. They're trying to copy Marvel. But that's more what I think. I know he'll love Ben Affleck, because they're buddies. So I don't have any problem with that. But I just am curious as if he's going to comment on anything about how fast they're going with this. Or but I don't think he's gonna really say anything negative about it. I don't think, but who knows?
Yeah, I doubt it. I would. I mean, I almost think he's tied in there somehow, because when I listen to a lot of Kevin Smith, and even when he was doing a morning show with his wife and some people at their house at one point when Smodcast has started, and I would listen to that, like the podcast version of it. So I would take it to work, and I'd have like a nice little, whatever it was, I think it was like at least 2.5 hours of their radio show to listen to, and he was talking about Ben Affleck, and I guess his wife isn't really a Kevin Smith fan, a huge fan of Kevin Smith. So he's like, yeah, like there was one point where he was talking, I think it was probably Hollywood Babylon. He was like, yeah, like we've kind of fallen out, but when he wrote, Kevin Smith did a movie called Red State, and he asked Affleck to do one of those, like those little reviews that they put on the poster, like the most amazing movie ever, blah blah blah, by whoever. He was like, yeah, can you just come up with something like whatever about it? And I think it was after he had done it, or maybe it was during the time of Argo or whatever. I think they were around the same time. And he was like, yeah, he wrote me back and he did some, like we've kind of communicated a little bit then. He's like, but he like kind of said like his wife isn't a huge fan of me, so we don't hang out as much as we used to. Plus
Jennifer Gardner.
Yeah, he said, and he's a big Hollywood star anyway. So I mean, like come on, Kevin Smith is. I don't know. I think he might not be the go-to top director, but I think he's a very well-known director, very famous director for anybody.
Yeah, I wouldn't think he's. I wouldn't say A-list, but saying B-list is almost maybe he's an A- list. How about that?
Yeah, somewhere
there is
for
anything.
For me, A-list director, but I mean,
I love his movies.
Kevin Smith can make Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Transformers before Michael Bay for me. I'm just saying.
Apparently, he had a hand in, or he was going to write the Superman movie before they did, not Man of Steel, but Superman.
The other one, yeah.
And he was saying when he did his review of Man of Steel that there were some bits in there that was like were his ideas. He thinks. So I'm pretty sure I talked about that, and I don't know if that's he was saying something about like the you saw Man of Steel, right?
Yes.
All right, so the Earth engine that was, or the World engine, or whatever they call it, the one that was destroying the Earth or whatever it was doing, trying to make it into Krypton. Said it looked like a big spider, and he said that was he either implied it was his idea, or he thought it should look like that, or I don't remember what. But at any rate, he was saying that he wasn't sure if that was a nod to him or to somebody else, but actors and people in the entertainment business, they always think things are about them. He gave an analogy. He said, someone walks in the room and there's a bowl of apples. Someone will go, oh, look, there's a bowl of apples. But when an actor or someone in the entertainment business walks into a room and sees a bowl of apples, go, oh, look, someone got me a bowl of apples. And that's probably true.
That's how I feel when I go everywhere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I see M&Ms out. Oh, someone put M&Ms out for me.
For me?
Who I was I did hear something funny on Hollywood Babylon, and it's still, well, we're a little bit off of Batman, but Superman related, which I found hilarious, and I need to share with you right now before I forget. Okay. Apparently, it's one of the older Superman movies Marlon Brando was in.
Oh, the first one.
Was it? Okay.
One of the old ones.
It was the very first one. Yeah, but I'm not a huge old.
The classic. Guy. Have you ever seen Superman, the movie? You will believe a man can fly.
But they have a scene where, and who did Brando play? Did he play Jor-El?
Superman's father. Gosh, it's just an insult. Just an insult. You would even ask. So
they're on Krypton, and
what happened to the new Brandon?
This is the new Brandon. So I'm gonna call Marlon Brando out on this shit.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So they have this scene or this segment on Hollywood Babylon called "Shit That Should Not Be," and they find things in movies that should not be. And Brando apparently, because all the things you would really think you would see on Krypton, Brando could not be bothered enough to take off his Rolex, as his Rolex is showing in one of the scenes, and someone had caught it and sent it in, and I was like, I started dying laughing when I didn't even see it, but I just heard that, and I was like, oh my god, really? Like,
that's funny.
That's hilarious. So back to a little bit of Batman. Okay, I got a question for you.
All right.
On the episode I was listening to, they got into what Batman is your Batman? Long ears, short ears? Where do you fall on that, or you don't really care?
Um, well, okay, long ears, short ears. I don't know. I guess I don't really care. I like the full-fledged cowl that almost, you almost don't even see his neck. It's
Hmm.
that solid piece. Like I guess Christopher Nolan got some praise in the latest Batman movies, where he kind of made the bat helmet or the bat cowl look more like a helmet than it does. It doesn't have it. It has more freedom of motion in his neck.
Yes.
Whereas you look at the Tim Burton Batman, it's that one solid piece. But I like that one solid piece. I think that looks cool.
Hmm.
Um, so the Batman costume I like the best is the big black bat without the red oval around it, or yellow oval.
Hmm.
Like the ones in the games, in the Arkham City games, that costume. To me, it looks almost functional. I mean, you see some of the pieces on there, and I think, wow, you could probably make that. That looks, like that's doable. I don't know how heavy it would be, and I don't know about the glider cape or anything like that, but who knows? But I really like that. Now I just started playing because I got on this Batman kick. Because of Fat Man on Batman, I went back and replayed Arkham City, and I actually got through the whole main game. And then I was just still doing some of the side missions. And then today, I just on a whim, I got Arkham Origins, which was the one that came out after that, which goes back to Batman more in the beginning. And
Man.
they have in that game more of the helmet look, not the full cowl thing, and I don't like it as much. But as far as the size of the ears, because I think they're doing shorter ears in the new movie. I don't know. I think I guess I don't really think too much about that. I'm more concerned about the
Actual
cowl
story?
portion of it.
Okay.
Yeah, or no, the cowl portion of the whole thing. But I definitely like I definitely like just the solid black bat without the yellow oval around it.
And are you okay with nipples on the bat suit or no?
I prefer no nipples. That doesn't make
Okay.
any sense to me. I mean, just as much as nipples on men don't make sense, on a costume it makes even less sense.
So
So,
men should not have nipples?
well, what are they for?
You know what, Kevin? I don't know. And
Did you breastfeed your kids?
that's the name of this episode, though, is men should not have nipples.
There you go.
Now, I've been busting your balls a little bit about as much as you love Marvel all these years, you are on a big DC kick right now, and it's not a big DC everywhere
Batman
kick.
kick.
It's a Batman kick.
Yeah.
So let's see. So you started with the podcast. You're moving into the games. Have you delved into any of your old Batman issues or anything like that, or do you not have a big
Well,
Batman collection?
I have some, but I do not like Batman. Would be very. I don't have very many. I like I like a lot of the miniseries. Like Jim Lee did the art for Batman Hush, and that's a really good story. And then on Fat Man they had Jeff Loeb, who did The Long Halloween. And I don't know if you want to read some really good Batman stories, The Long Halloween, Hush, both of those are really good. I think there's also Hush 2, or it may be called something else. That was also good. Killing Joke is another one. That's
There's one I'm really interested in. I'm curious if you've read it. I believe it's called. Is it Crazy Love or Mad Love? I think
that's
it's Mad
Mad
Love.
Love. That's the first comic of Harley Quinn.
Yeah, Joker and Harley Quinn.
And that's Paul Dini wrote that. No, I have not read that.
That's one that I actually found through the podcast. That, like I said, I kind of use it as a learning experience, as I do a lot of things when it comes to comics, except for what I've been reading as of late. And there's a lot of I'm trying to think here. Okay, well, let's get into the animated Batmans a little bit. You've been diving into the Brave and the Bold.
Yeah,
Um,
after yeah, after
sorry.
go no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I mean, before we get to that, were you into the animated series at all when that was
It,
going on?
no, when it came out, I wasn't. Um,
A grown up
I was a
or
grown
a
up.
grown up?
I think that's what. Even though I was reading comics, but I was a Marvel guy. But I think at that point, I wasn't. I wasn't watching TV that much. I don't think
And
because that came out.
have you watched that since?
I haven't watched much of that, but I'm
Okay.
curious to see it because I think I'd like to go back and I mean I've seen episodes of it. It's not like I've never seen it before. Like this is some new thing,
Hmm.
but I have not seen much of it. I don't think. I mean, like I might go back and watch some and go, oh, maybe I've seen more of this than I thought I did.
And maybe you remember from listening to so much, or maybe it's kind of passed in and out of
Yeah,
your ear.
yeah.
Um, there was, I don't know if it was just the scenery, but they said, I think maybe it might have been the scenery because they were talking about a lot of the intro and stuff like that and the look of it. And they were saying that a lot of it was done on blackboard, which I really found interesting. Like they were painting the images in the on blackboard instead of like drawing it on or
White.
painting it on
Yep.
white. And that gave it a lot of look. And like that was something that from listening to the podcast, like I just found like awesome. Like it made me
Yeah.
love it that much more.
Yeah, I
Um,
thought that was really cool too. When they had who's the artist on it? Dang it. Bruce Bruce Tim? Yeah. I think that's it. They even had the guy who does the background, who does it good, but he did come up with that. Let's paint it on black as opposed to playing, on white, and
mhm.
that gave that over look. And they said the opening credits was a kind of a homage to the Fleischman Superman,
Yes.
early Superman cartoons.
Yeah, and like I don't know. Like I said, I love that series. Like it just holds one of those places for me. Like
Yeah.
I remember rushing home to watch it. Like I said, and it was one of those things that I would like. I didn't I didn't do sports or any of that stuff. Like I was doing other stuff anyway. I was playing music. I was doing art and stuff like that in school. I wasn't the um, for the area that I'm in. It's like a country-ish, and more so when I was littler, country-ish farming sports type town. Even though our sports team sucked, and it was mostly football that we you know ripped onto. But I mean, like I wasn't into any of that. Like I was the kid at home with toys and video games and drawing and playing music and stuff like that. And that was just something that I guess through drawing that I really gripped to. Like I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I wouldn't really when that series was going on, every day that it was on, I knew it was new. I was home.
Hmm.
You want to do something? Nope, going home to watch Batman. And Batman really is like one of my favorite characters because we've had this conversation a little bit before. Like my favorite superheroes are guys that really don't have powers per se. Your Batman, your Iron Man. Technically, if you want to go, your Green Lantern without his ring. You know,
No.
without his ring, he doesn't have any powers. He's just a
I
normal guy.
know, but it's just I don't know. You're right. You're right.
I'm right. I
Um,
know I am. But I mean, like those guys were always my favorite guys because they were
yeah.
just, I guess, on a human level more relatable. Like, um, they don't have anything that really. I mean, they do, but I mean, I mean, even if you go as far as like Tony Stark technology, Batman, again, just technology. He's just a
Right.
dude in a suit. He doesn't have any powers, and he has to come up with ways to defeat
Well,
other people.
and as they say a lot in the podcast is like, Batman's so appealing because really, if you were a billionaire and you really worked, like, you could be Batman, because
Yeah.
it's you just train and you put a lot of money into your weapons and devices and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And again, like since I've been playing this game again, now you can't carry all the stuff that he carries on a belt. I mean, that I don't think is physically possible.
It is.
But I'm sorry.
Don't doubt Batman. It is. It's physically possible.
Even Kevin Smith says
Don't
it's
you
not
dare.
possible.
Oh, him and I will have some words one day then.
they were talking about this because I think it was with Jim Lee, or it was with maybe it was Greg Capullo, who's the current artist, I think, on Batman. But they were saying because the utility belt is so tall, I guess, thick, I guess. I'm not sure what's the right word. But there's no way you could do acrobatics and land with a belt like that. It would, they would probably pierce your stomach or break a rib or something like that. They just it's just like the cowl. They say in reality that cowl, the biker helmet style they did in the Nolan movies makes sense because you can move your head. The cowl, you can't. You probably are going to get shot. Someone's going to get you on the side because you can't move your head. But in comics, in comics though, that doesn't matter, right? It's more of a visual thing. So it's in real life, you would do something different. But like I said, the way they do it on this in the video game. Have you played Arkham Asylum or Arkham City or any of those?
I played the first one was Asylum, right? Yeah.
Yes.
The first one was Asylum. I played the first one. I did not go any further. The first one was amazing. And when you were out, we were talking about the newest one that's coming out, Arkham City. No.
Knight. Arkham Knight.
Arkham Knight. And that's gonna almost be like a GTA-ish.
Yeah, because it's got a Batmobile in it.
You're gonna have a Batmobile. But yeah, playing the first game, I might actually played a couple minutes of the second one, but not that I really got into it all that much.
I love it.
So do I, and I love that it's the same game almost. Like there's not a lot that's completely different. There are some things that are different, but essentially, it's kind of the same game.
It's just on a bigger scale and it's a different story. But yeah, it's the same controls and all that. You're right. I'm playing Arkham Origins. The thing that's different about this is not Rocksteady, the game manufacturer, did the first two Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. Arkham Origins was done by somebody else. And I already can tell that it's not the same. I mean, everything else is, all of the gadgets, it's all the same. It's kind of the same cutscenes as far as when you use the gadgets. It's the same type of stuff. But they changed some of the controls just slightly. And I notice it. And it's like, I'm used to pressing this button when I want to launch my bat claw.
Man, you sound like me so much right now. When I'm talking about Halo, because when Bungie had a hold of Halo, I was so used to one control. When 343 Studios took it over, a couple things were different, and I use a weird setting that a lot of people don't use, I guess, to my research, and I don't know if it's my I guess technically there is no left-brainedness, as they say from recent studies, but from my left-brainedness, I don't care. There is such a thing. Yeah, I noticed it like right away. Like I was like, and I hate when they do that. Like, there's no point. Don't reinvent the wheel. Yeah, something that was great.
Yeah, it's almost like, well, it's our game now, and we're going to do everything else exactly the same. But you know what? Instead of it being R1, let's make it R2.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, don't do that, because I'm getting used to it, and I'm in. But I can also tell that the walking is different. The movement, it's off a little bit. It took me a while to just get adjusted, and I literally, because I played the Arkham City last night, and I'm playing this tonight, Arkham Origins, and I just can tell the difference. And I go with default controls.
Are you playing it because you finished the other one, or did you just get the new one and had to play some of it?
Yeah, I mean, I got through the main story, and I had done basically when I did it the first time. It's funny. I got to. It says on Arkham City, how far you are in the entire game, because you've got your main story, but there's so many side missions, and they're all the Riddler trophies and all that type of stuff. I had 47% when I did this a couple years ago, whenever I first got it. So within a weekend, because I was kind of just gearing on it for a weekend and then during the week, because the girls, I didn't have the girls all last week.
You have been Batman binging, my friend.
I have been.
Because I know this number is going to be astronomical compared to 47. Just by the way
I got done and it was 47 again. I was like, what? Why is it 47? But I think, but I got to a point. But I think I maybe got past 50%.
Okay.
And then today I was just out. I was running a bunch of errands, and there was one of my stops was I forgot there was a GameStop in there. I thought, I'm going to go in there and see if they've got Batman Origins, and I'll see how much it is. And they had it used, so I was like, okay, great, I'll get this. And it was funny too because I went and got it, and there was a girl behind the counter at the GameStop. This is totally off subject, but she was wearing a Spider-Man, like a panel of Spider-Man panels from a Spider-Man comic dress. And she had kind of a rockin' figure. She's probably 17 or something. But I was like, nice dress. I was like, nice dress, and she goes, oh yeah. And I was like, well, it's too bad you're getting from the wrong universe, as far as Batman versus Spider-Man or whatever. But they were telling me about Arkham Knights, and they said that that's back. Rocksteady is doing Arkham Knights. It is going to be the last one.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only going to be for the new gen consoles.
Yeah, and it's already been delayed. Like I said, when you were gone, James and I were talking about this a little bit, and we kind of got to the point where, we announced that it was delayed. And these things are expected anyway with games,
right?
Even with movies, everything that we talk about, things get delayed. But I was like, if they're going to delay this game, I'm completely okay with that, because if it's going to be the last one, you're going to make it the best damn game you can possibly make it. And with it being like a GTA style game with a Batmobile and everything, like, I don't care. I don't care if you set it back a year. I don't care if you set it back 2 years. But when I get it in my hands, it better be the best damn thing I ever played. And then I'm okay with it. Now, if I get it and it completely sucks, then you're going to see me, like, hitting boards left and right. Like, really? Why did we delay this game? And that's the nice version.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're probably had some bugs, or they want to make it good, and I have confidence that they will.
Mm-hmm.
Introducing something brand new as the Batmobile into the fourth installment of these games will be interesting.
Yeah.
Personally, it depends on what the Batmobile can do.
It does.
If it's just a car and I'm driving through the streets, I'm gonna hate it because I can't do that.
Well, now
video games, I suck at it.
Now what if you are
if I have first person look of the Batman, like I'm inside and I see my hands on the steering wheel and I have all the buttons and controls and stuff like that, then I think I will like it better than the above the car.
Oh, see, that's how I play. Third person?
I can't do that. I've never gone into the GTA games because I can't control the stupid car.
Yes, you can. You can go first person. You can go first person in the cars.
Okay, I haven't played GTA since the very first one.
Well,
so.
As of 4, I know. 3, maybe 2. I don't remember.
I don't know.
I forget which one. 3 was probably the first one that I really played. I know you can in 4. But anyway,
that would be enough for me to buy a PlayStation 4.
Would you be okay with if you were in the Batmobile and they were like, there's a blah 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 over here, something going on, and you had to drive over to that mission and maybe do so, or you're just talking like, I want to use a Batmobile, I want to be chasing cars using the Batmobile.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to see how they're going to integrate it. I mean, is it going to be the only way I can get over to it, then I'd be I would get pulled out of the game. So you get in these games and you like them, because you're in it, right? And that's the one thing about these Arkham City games that have been so great, is because you do have full range, especially in Arkham City and in Arkham Origins. You got all of Gotham City to explore. What's great about Arkham Origins in this is it's in the past. So in Arkham City, you go through Gotham City, or at least parts of it that's the actual prison, and a lot of it's underwater. You don't really get to see it, but now in this version, it's all dry. And so I can already see the layout is the same. So it's kind of cool because I'm like going through here, but I know what Gotham City's like. I know Ace Chemicals here, so that means Amusement Miles over here. This is how into the game I've got. So if they're gonna make me drive the Batmobile from point A to point B because I gotta go, stop something. I'm not gonna like that as much because it's like, well, I didn't have to use a Batmobile in the other games. If it's optional, okay. Or if it's you have to get into the Batmobile in order to do
to catch
a car
something.
chase, or or you need the weapons that are available to you, that enhances the game, then okay. But if it's just there to get me from point A to point B, then I'm gonna be like, well, screw it. I'm gonna use the glider cape and the bat claw because I like doing that better anyway.
Yeah.
And I can control that. I've really gotten pretty good with the glider cape, by the way. I just want to say I used to suck at the glider cape, but now
Kevin, you're awesome. You're awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I could be Batman, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm surprised you're not trying to build it with extra wood left over from the deck you were building.
Well, what about it?
But, now, oh man, I hate when I'm clock watching and trying to keep us in time. But I do have a couple other things that I want to get to. Okay, so
extra long episode. That's the new brand, an extra long. Not watch the clock.
Let's go back to the animated.
Okay.
You're in the Brave and the Bold.
Brave and the Bold, yes.
Well, you're not in it. You're not in it, but I mean, you're like.
I had a small part. I was Thug number 3.
Who are you, Catwoman?
Thug number 3.
Oh, okay.
No, I started, because it was funny because when Kevin Smith was interviewing Diedrich, or whatever his name was, he has a weird name. And I didn't, Bader, I didn't even know who the guy was until they started listing his other credits while he was in there. I was like, oh, it's that dude. He's funny. So I was surprised. But when they started talking about it, he said, Kevin Smith said that he didn't want to watch The Brave and the Bold. He loved the animated series. He has an unrequited love for Batman the Animated Series. He didn't, and then the Batman and Robin Adventures or whatever it went to, whatever the incarnations were. But he didn't want to watch Brave and Bold because I think he said he was driving into a Warner Brothers lot or something, and he saw like a poster of Brave and Bold, and he's like, "It's Smiling Batman." I don't want to go back to Smiling Batman, kind of referring back to the Adam West series. And then for whatever reason, he started watching it, and he said he said he couldn't believe how good it was, and so I started watching it mainly because I was interested in hearing how this dude that I knew from Drew Carey in Office Space was going to do the Batman voice. That cartoon is a joy to watch. It's fun. It's not as dark, I don't think, as the animated series. I mean, Batman isn't campy. Well, it's not campy. It's still good stories. Have you seen it?
We're talking Brave and the Bold?
Now we're at Brave and Bold, yes.
Okay. I think it's good. Man,
yeah,
I mean, I've seen worse. I mean, just worse in I don't know if they're actual or whatever, but I mean, I've seen worse Batman than that.
It reminded me of kind of a classic cartoon. I don't know if you're too young to remember the Herculoids or some of the early, I don't know if that was Hanna-Barbera, or I think it was Hanna-Barbera, but kind of the classic Saturday morning, even if you go back to the Super Friends or early Batman, the framework of some of these stories is still kind of the same. You don't ever really see Bruce Wayne in any of these Brave and the Bold. It's this Batman, and I like the fact that they have some of these cold opens where it's just a little small vignette of Batman and the Blue Beetle or Aquaman are doing something, and then they go into the main episode with whoever else is with. And I thought the way they did Aquaman was great, funny.
You reminded me of something.
What?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. So it's just it's great, and I'm like watching this thinking, I want to see if my girls will watch this because this is just, it was fun. It had action. It had a story to it. It wasn't a simple resolution each time. It was they had to do something, and they're pulling out characters that I recognize, and this is also pre-New 52. And it did in some ways make me mad. It's like, look at these characters that they don't exist anymore. I'm still mad about the New 52, and I think I always.
All right. You can be. The thing I remembered was when we were talking about Batman's back being broken and Azrael Batman. In the interview I was listening to, they were talking about Dick Grayson. When
Yeah,
he came in, and
yeah.
he was like, well, why can't I be Batman? I guess it was Bruce Wayne kind of said, no, you're your own thing, and that's why he didn't allow him to be Batman. Which I just thought of when you were talking about that, and I just thought it was really like when I was listening to it, I was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. Like I don't know, but so Brave and the Bold though, like yeah, I like those cartoons. I know there's another one called The Batman. I think that's even newer than Brave and the Bold.
No, I
Um,
haven't seen that one.
and people have really like shit on that one too. But I
Oh,
think
really?
that yeah, and I don't know. I think it's all right. I like cartoons though, so that's the thing. Like when people sit there and they'll go, "Oh yeah, that sucks," because they'll look at Batman or whatever. But I've watched a few of them and I think they're fine. Maybe it's the ones that I watched were the best ones, maybe, but I don't know. Um, but also there's a Justice League cartoon on Saturday mornings,
Uh,
which follows um, Spectacular Spider-Man, which is I think that's completely done. But it's a Justice League show, and I like Batman on that too. But I think my favorite Batman, I'll probably get a lot of shit for this. Um, I always liked, is it, oh God, and I'm gonna forget what it's called now. Um, is it Batman?
Batman Beyond,
Batman Beyond, yeah.
the future
Uh,
one?
yeah, like the animated series. Though. I'm not talking about comics or anything.
No, no, no. Yeah,
But
well,
the animated Batman Beyond, I loved, and I thought it was really cool because it was old Bruce Wayne and it was a new
right.
kid like taken under the wing, and it was almost like Bruce, like it was like the Tony Stark's of Batman because he had all these new technologies and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, and it was really cool to me. And like I said, I never got into the comics, so I don't
There
know.
was
Maybe
there. I don't think there is a comic. Well, if there
well
was,
there is.
it's based on the cartoon.
Okay, well there is now. I know there's comics now,
Yeah, but that's
or
based on the
there
cartoon.
have been.
Right.
But
That
when the
was
cartoon came out, like I thought the cartoon was awesome.
well.
Um,
They had the story. Paul Dini told us. I think it was Paul Dini told the story on Batman and Batman about Batman Beyond. Is that Warner Brothers or Fox or whoever owned the? I guess it's Warner Brothers. Said they wanted to do young Bruce Wayne, a young Batman,
hmm
and they were like, "Well, yeah, that doesn't work." And how they were too married, dedicated to the core essence of Batman that they didn't want to go back and do a young Batman, like
hmm
Batboy or whatever you want to call it. But that's what Warner Brothers wanted to do. So they came up with this Batman Beyond. It was like, well, what? Let's just Bruce Wayne is old. He's not doing the Batman thing anymore, and he has takes on a new guy that's whatever that dude's name is, Batman. I forgot. What's his name? Do you remember it?
Well, yeah, it's Batman Beyond.
No,
Are you
his
talking?
the whoever Batman is, the secret identity of Batman in that version.
Oh,
So
Terry something.
Terry, yeah. So anyway, yeah, they said that was what they came up with as an answer to Warner Brothers, kind of going for the younger audiences want a younger character, which is exactly why they did the New 52 because, everybody younger.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, and I don't know if you're like
Never seen it.
down on that version or not.
No, I've
But
never
I
seen it,
mean,
so I
but
can't.
it was like as far as animation and everything goes, like I thought it was a really solid show, and I really liked it. And I always thought like after that show, like I've been the one. I mean, campaigning is only one person speaking about it for me here, but I mean, I've been the one that's like, why don't they do a Batman Beyond movie? Because Batman Beyond with CGI and everything would be freaking awesome. And okay, so you had Nolan's Joker, and let's be honest, topping Heath Ledger's Joker is going to be really hard in my
Mhm.
eyes, and in a lot of people's eyes. And in the Batman Beyond, they had the Jokers, which were like the clan that there it was almost like a cult of followers
people
of the
following.
Joker
Yeah.
from the old Joker, and I was like, well, why couldn't you take Batman Beyond and bring back the Jokers, which were pretty much they were like a weird version of the what were they called, the card gang,
The Royal Flush Gang.
Yes, the Royal Flush Gang. Thank you. Brain fart completely. And like they were like a weird version of that, like updated. You know, in the sense that there was a lot of them, or there were more of them. But I always found that story like really interesting, and I was like, yeah, that would be cool. That would be a way to bring in like a young Bruce, and I don't know, maybe DC will make me happy and do that, since they're gonna do like 40 movies a year now.
Yeah.
But maybe if they do get into a new singular Batman with Batfleck, by the time he's done with his movies, he could play an older Bruce Wayne or whatever. And I don't know. I just
You know what's interesting though about that whole Batman and Batfleck? You know, he's unless he's gonna do cameo bits in the other movies, it's really only Superman, Batman, and then Justice League.
But you know what? If he is okay, so we're gonna say
long.
We're gonna say he like him and Superman are gonna be the main parts of the Justice League. Like,
right.
You know, like I mean, as far as like star power in these movies, they're gonna be the guys. So, I mean, if they come out of the actual Justice League movie, and then they go into a Batman series, like he could do it. Why couldn't he do it? Robert Downey is
Well, you're right. He could do it. Yeah.
And then when he's done, he could just pass it off however they want to pass it off. If they want to go into Nightwing, or if they want to go into
they're gonna
like a Batman Beyond or whatever.
No, they'll get a new actor.
Give me a goddamn Batman Beyond.
This is what they're gonna do. They're gonna reboot these. Either they're gonna reboot these series again. They're gonna do this at Marvel too, or they're just gonna get new actors.
I just hate that Marvel said that they're gonna go about it the way that they are.
Why? I don't understand that. Why do you hate that?
Because I can't stand that. Like Robert Downey Jr. is gonna be Iron Man in one movie, and then the next movie is gonna be, oh yeah, here's this guy. Like,
well, but that's the way it's. Yeah.
But recently,
Robert Downey Jr. doesn't want to do it anymore.
I know. Well, I understand that, but even recently, Stan Lee said Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. Like,
yeah, I know. He said that, and I agree with it. I mean, I
agree too.
Whoever has got to replace him has got a huge metal boots to fill for sure.
I mean, I don't think Batman.
I would rather have that than them like focus on War Machine or something like that. They just make up something. I'd rather just recast it. I'll accept it. That's something I think we have to accept as comic.
I don't accept it.
Well, but as comic book people, well, and maybe I'm more of the comic book person.
Probably.
But I mean, you have to suspend belief that Peter Parker.
Kevin, don't let them
in his early. No. Peter Parker is still in his early 20s for the last 60 years or 70, however long he's been around.
But that makes sense.
But if you're going to do that in the movies, then you're going to have to do the same thing. You're going to have to recast to keep them perpetually young.
I don't like it.
Well,
you're just going
to have to get out now.
I think Iron Man is a really unfair thing to pull. Because, like, I don't think ever was there a Batman movie that you ever cared about when they replaced Batman, like one of the actors?
Well, let's see, who was the first person to replace Michael Keaton?
Michael Keaton.
Was it Val Kilmer? No. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it had to be, right?
Was he the one that take? So it was.
He was the nipples.
No, I think that was. That was
George Clooney.
Yeah,
right?
George Clooney. Or that's when they camped it up. So, okay, yeah, that's right, because it was Batman Returns. That was Michael Keaton. That was the Penguin one. Then they did Batman Forever. No, Batman Forever?
Sure.
And that was Val Kilmer. And then they did Batman and Robin. And that was the worst one. That was fourth. Yeah, that's right. Um, yeah, I was surprised with Michael Keaton anyway. When they picked Michael Keaton to do it, I was like, what? Mr. Mom, what? And then that's
Yeah.
what everybody did, right? And
Yeah.
then the movie came out and it exploded. It was a huge hit. And it's funny. I want to go back and watch it, especially after listening to Fat Man and the Batman and talking about the
Uh,
fact that they say like when that came out, and I remember this when Batman came
Me
out,
too.
it was like that was the superhero. They did Batman right. It wasn't campy. It was dark, but comparing it to Nolan's Batman, it's not
Kevin,
dark at all.
don't go watch it. I'm gonna tell you right now, don't go watch it. I've done it. It's
You don't
not
think it doesn't hold up?
not in the slightest. Just
The
let it
first
live.
one,
Let
the
it
Jack
live in your
Nicholson.
memory. Let it live in your
No,
memory.
I'm gonna go watch it now. Now I'm definitely gonna go watch it.
If you compare it to Nolan's, like,
Oh, I'm not. I don't want to compare it
and
to Nolan's. I want it
but
to stand on
but
its own.
well, I mean, but that's what you're gonna do because you're gonna go, oh, well, Nolan's first Batman was this,
See, no, I'm
and
not
then
gonna do that. I don't do that. See, this is where our differences are between us. Goes into the different characters and rebooting and all that other stuff. I can look at these things as different works, and I think the first one,
okay,
I think will
imagine.
hold up.
All right, well,
Well,
imagine
we'll
when
see.
you went and watched The Crow, and how that didn't hold up for. Well, I mean, you never saw it, but
Well, right.
for the time, it didn't hold up, and that's where it's not gonna hold up for you. You're gonna go, oh man, like,
Well, probably effects wise, I think you had to get past some of the technical issues because now effects wise you can do anything, whereas
yeah,
back then it was just at the start of being able to do anything. But
yeah, well, yeah, it was
the
still the
one
old.
thing, the one thing that the Fat Man and the Batman has really brought to light is the impact that that movie had for comic book fans because it revitalized. You had Superman
Yeah,
back in the '70s.
yeah,
That was it. And then
hmm
Batman came in and that showed you can do a comic book movie the way the comic books were and it could still be good. And then X-Men kind of followed that. I'm not sure what the differences in times were, but I think that was shortly thereafter. And but Batman, the Michael Keaton Batman, 1989, it's very very significant when you talk about comic book movies. Yeah, X-Men came out in 2000.
yeah.
So, 10 years, 11 years later.
And as far as Batman goes, Nolan has the perfect trilogy if you just take that third movie away. The eject button does
Well,
not
they
work.
don't have a trilogy there.
You could just play the second one again. That makes a trilogy to me. But yeah, it's But now let me ask you this: what was your introduction to Batman?
Oh,
Like,
it had to have been a comic.
but I mean,
Well,
we're
or the
I'm trying to think. Batman is how old?
75 years,
75.
something around
So
there.
so obviously you didn't have number one,
Oh no. I
but
mean, and
but
I
I
was
mean,
never a big. I was never a big Batman fan, even growing up. I think
okay,
probably the TV series. Honestly, was probably my very first introduction to Batman. I remember watching the early. Well, no, take that back. Super Friends was probably my first Batman.
okay.
And then I remember Batman and Robin morning cartoon. Where Casey Kasem is doing the voice of Robin.
I think that's
Um,
the first one I remember too. If it wasn't Adam West, it was that. Like, I mean,
yeah,
that was probably in
that's
syndication maybe by the time I was that because that stuff
yeah.
wasn't 80s. So I mean, it was in syndication, but that's how I remember consuming him. Like he was on, I think Batman was on like Nickelodeon or something when I was a little kid, like or Nick at Night or whatever it was called at that time.
Oh, the
The
Adam
Adam West
West.
one,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
and
know it was.
and I think it was, I mean, watching it now, it's even better than I remember because you get all the jokes and you get all the like. I love Adam West Batman, but
It's fun.
you
It's
know,
fun.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, and then when I started reading comics, I couldn't tell you the first Batman issue. But I was always a Marvel guy, and that's the other thing that cracks me up in this Fat Man and the Batman. Most of these guys, talking about Batman, they most of them if not all of them, have said they liked Marvel first. They were
Yeah.
Marvel guys first, and then they went over to, and I think Batman is the pinnacle of what you want to write if you're gonna or draw or
Oh
do
yeah.
anything with. If you're gonna go over to DC.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
first, not Superman.
Mm-mm,
Batman.
not to me. I mean, like I said, I like guys that have no power, pretty much.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, Batman. I mean, just the story alone is dark. Um,
yeah. And listen,
everything about him is just like
it's
freaking
cool.
awesome.
Yeah,
And you know, the episode I was listening to, um, they were saying like Marvel was doing at the time that I think it was at the time, but Marvel was doing a lot of things that looked really nice, but the story didn't hold up, and DC was doing like maybe not the best looking thing, but the story was incredible. And I don't know. I mean, that's just I don't know because I haven't read the books that they're actually talking about.
hmm
But I mean, Batman to me is just like the craziest story, and you have some of the best freaking villains.
yeah,
Like in
yeah.
my eyes, anyway. Like Joker, come on. I mean, it doesn't to me. It doesn't matter which version of Joker you're ever talking about. Like there are some really silly versions of Joker, and there are like the darker versions. Like I just like Joker. Like he's completely effed up. I don't know. Maybe that's because I'm completely effed up. But uh, but yeah, I mean, Batman just brought some of I felt like some of the best characters, whether it be through any of the comics I ever read, through the animated series, the movies. There are, some other things I would like to see. I would have loved to see not Bane in the third installment, but I would have
Yeah.
loved to see like a Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, like team up. Um,
Yeah, I
and
think
I think that still needs to happen.
yeah, I think Harley Quinn will definitely come into whenever they do another series of Batman. I think Harley Quinn will be they'll bring Joker back somehow, with somebody else doing it,
Yeah,
obviously because Heath
not as good.
Ledger, he's dead. No, it probably won't be as good. But when Jack Nicholson did the Joker in the '89 movie, he was good.
For the time.
He wasn't as he didn't go as deep as Heath Ledger did. That's for sure. I mean, Heath
Yeah.
Ledger he did a take on Joker that I think was different. Now, I will
Like
tell you
chilling.
this. Yeah, I I'm not as thrilled with Dark Knight Returns as everybody else was. I mean, it
Mm,
was good, but maybe because I heard too many people just go crazy over the movie and just saying, "Oh, it's just like Heath Ledger's like the performance of a lifetime," and again, it was good, but I really thought Batman Begins was better, and a lot of people
ooh.
thinking that's the worst of the three.
Well,
Um,
no. Number three would be the worst of the three. What do you
yeah,
mean? What will break first, your back or your soul?
well, the only reason
Um,
that one was so bad, I couldn't understand what either Batman was saying or Bane was saying.
well, I mean, I just thought Bane was completely horrible in that whole movie. Like, I mean,
And I don't even know if that's what.
no disrespect to Christopher Nolan whatsoever, but I mean that movie there's a couple parts that are okay, but coming off of that second movie, like you had Two-Face,
Well,
you had
that's
the
true. Yeah.
Joker, you had such a great freaking movie, and that third movie just says, I don't give a shit.
How
And
long between those though? How long was it
couple
between?
couple years, couple years.
Yeah,
And it was just, I mean, but I mean, you went from like the first number one, like Batman Begins, I thought it was
I
very
love that
good.
one. I love that one.
I thought it was very very good. And come on, you had Liam Neeson, and then
Yeah,
the second one, I was like, okay, we're still progressing. And then the third one is like, well, we're going back to Liam Neeson in a way because
right.
it's his daughter, and okay, well, we kind of halted our whole story up here, and Bane isn't the crazy, huge guy that we're used to.
Yeah,
He's just like a
that was
regular
the thing.
sized guy.
And he talks
Um,
all real intelligent. In the comics,
yeah,
I thought he was more like the Hulk in the comic.
he's like Groot. I am Groot. I am Bane.
Yeah. So
What do you
I didn't get that either. And then there were a lot of things in that third movie that they brought up in the Fat Man and the Batman when they go in depth on these things. Because that Ralph Garman did not like it at all.
I completely hated the third movie. I could probably do at least 3 hours on how much I hated that movie.
But there were a lot of things. The one thing when I was watching
The
it,
trilogy just cut out the third movie.
the thing I never quite got was when Bruce Wayne finally got out of the hole.
Yes.
Next scene, he's back in Gotham. How did he get back? He
He's
had
freaking
no.
Batman.
Yeah, that's it. I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I got so tired of his voice.
Where is she?
It's just his voice was
Rachel.
terrible.
Rachel.
Whenever they do, hopefully when one thing that Ben Affleck, if I could impart some advice, which I'm sure I'm not the
He
first
won't
to give
listen
it to
to
him,
it.
just deepen your voice a little bit.
A little bit.
Don't, or
You know what was
make
great?
it modulated or something.
You know what was great? I almost feel like he went from being Bruce Wayne to being Gerard Butler's character in 300. This is Sparta.
Yeah.
This is Sparta. I'm Batman. I'm trying not to yell.
There's so many parodies of what's the comedian's name who does a lot of comic parodies? Gosh, dang it. He followed Conan with his own show for a little while.
I have no idea who you're talking about, unless you're talking about Jimmy. You're not talking about Jimmy Fallon.
No, crud. It was. Hold on. Yeah, go ahead, talk. I will figure it out.
Let's work it out. Let's talk about how great Batman is, except for that third thing with Bane. What? Oh, sorry.
Did you hear that?
No, I did not hear anything, but you said
okay.
whoa, so I imagine you spilled something.
No, it was in my headphones. Other audio came through, and it was
nice,
disturbing me. What's his name? I see his picture right there, but I don't have his name.
I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. But while you're trying to think of it, why we're still talking about Batman, before we get out of it, I did send you a little picture while we're talking
Holmes.
here. Oh, okay. He followed Conan?
Pete Holmes had a Pete Holmes show that followed Conan, but he does a parody of Batman. And
that was recently, though, wasn't it?
No, he's been doing this for a while. And he does it's a parody, but it's almost a spot-on imitation of how it was in the movie. So I'm sorry. Yeah. I will now leave this topic. Go ahead. What were we saying?
All right. So I sent you a little picture. I don't know if you got it or not. There was a villain in. It was the second Batman, since we're talking about it. I guess you're probably not seeing it, but he was one of the main shooters. He was like the crazy guy that Bruce Wayne was kind of holding up, and he's supposed to be. Now let's see if this actually holds up. He is supposed to be showing up in Ant-Man.
Okay.
And the only reason I'm tying this in is because he was in Batman originally. And he was the guy that was completely nuts in the second one. And Batman, and he was trying to get information out of him, and they're like, he doesn't know anything. He's completely insane. He was one of the main rifle.
I don't remember him. I see the picture you're talking about, but I don't remember him.
Okay. No. But he was supposed to be showing up in Ant-Man. But that was something else that I meant to mention earlier, and I didn't. And we're running late anyway, so I could probably sit here and talk a lot of other Batman stuff.
Well, the bottom line is, go listen to Fat Man on Batman. As long as you have no problem with cussing and
sexual innuendos,
heavy sexual innuendo, and a lot of pot smoking apparently. But you know what? If you're not listening for it, you probably won't hear it. But I did hear it, and I don't think I was listening for it, but it was just there. And that may have just been listening to headphones because you hear more of the background stuff.
Like we said, either way, either way, if you do hear it or not, it's still great interviews.
It is good. He
Um,
does. He's a really, really good interviewer. Because I never thought I thought I was going to skip over the composer when he had whoever the composer was for the Batman music. I was like, well, I don't care that much, but that was a good story too. So those are go see it. Awesome, or see it, watch it.
Yeah,
No,
go
don't
watch
it.
that podcast.
Listen to it. Listen to it. It's awesome.
So I don't know. Geez,
One
man,
more tidbit. One more tidbit. One more
Oh.
tidbit. One more.
Okay.
It's okay. We go.
Simmer.
We perfect control over our time. It's all right. One thing that's funny, the very first couple of episodes of Fat Man and Batman, at the end of the show, he would say, same bat time, same bat channel, smodcast.com, blah, blah, blah. And then
Stop
he
saying that.
changed it to say, same fat time, same fat channel, smodcast.com. And I was like, when I first heard it, because he started saying same bat, it was, oh no, not I'm going to get sued. Same fat time, not same. And I was like, has he been saying fat time, fat channel the entire time? And I went back, and he was saying bat time, bat channel. I think he probably got a letter or an email
He
and
probably
saying, hey, dude, that's copyrighted. Can't say it.
Which is weird because he's writing for DC and doing Batman now, Batman 66.
Is he writing that?
Yeah, him and Ralph Garman are doing Batman 66.
I'm actually kind of curious. I might go get that.
I definitely would. The only problem is if it keeps up or not. I guess.
Well, I think it's a limited.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I know it's started as limited.
It's got to be limited.
And then I don't know. I know that Ralph Garman loves Adam West Batman so much, and Kevin Smith loves Batman, obviously. So I think if they can drag it out a little bit longer, but it just depends on their schedules and stuff. But I definitely want to pick that up. So I really don't know how to end this episode.
Same arcade time, same arcade channel.
I think I gotta go a little bit deeper.
Oh.
I feel it. I feel like I gotta go like oh God, how do we do this?
Keep the streets safe.
Until next time, keep the streets safe, keep your heroes.
Yeah, clear your throat.
Let me clear my throat. No song, nothing.
What?
Yeah, it's fair use. Okay, bye guys.
All right, later.